IT governance part 4. The part 1, the part 2, and the part 3 have been presented. This is the part 4 of the series. My name remains Agboile Christopher. Here, the table of content. The items in this content are, many of them are already treated. So we continue from where we left off from part 3, and that is alignment. Part 3 ended with part of alignment, and this is a continuation. All that we've been talking about in IT governance and on the bigger picture, the corporate governance, it's about value creation. It's about benefits, growing the organization, the stakeholders' needs, the shareholders' needs, the customers' needs, the employees' needs, and the general society. So all the policies, all the governance and guides are all tailored to achieving value for investment, business investments, IT investments, and to the general public, social service as value derivable from establishing an organization within that environment. So we're considering the vertical and the horizontal alignment by Gooding-Stubbs, 2003. So if you look at the diagram, you have horizontal and vertical alignment. The horizontal alignment has to do with the structure, the organizational structure, while the vertical has to do with the alignment with the strategy of the business or the organizations. Talking about the organizational structure, it goes from the board down to the operations. At the very top, you talk about alignment in strategy. At the very bottom, operational level, you talk about alignment in operations. Two opposite ends. Then at the very top, you have the board for the strategy alignment, and at the very bottom, where you have business operational or operations, you have alignment in operations. Now, down up, performance is being monitored. From the operation, talk about the senior management, down to executive and the board, they will monitor performance. Then from top to bottom, you talk about giving directions, providing direction to ensure that there is an alignment as expected and performance in terms of compliance. If you talk about the horizontal alignment, it's about the entire organization being included, where clear responsibilities are declared, are defined. Everybody knows what he or she should do in line with the strategy of the organization. All the departments, all the structures, up, down, all the business units, the strategy must be able to be in handshaking. They must be integrated together. They must handshake to realize the general objectives or goals of the organization. And down there at the horizontal level, each unit must sign off on the scorecard for performance measurements. Scorecard, we call it KPIs. Then success must be a joint responsibility at all levels. Co-responsibility is shared. And of course, it must be pragmatic in the carrying out of the operation of the organization according to your specific tasks. Then you look at the service level and performance measurement at each of the levels in the organizational structure. Then down to the vertical alignment, the strategy, of course, start from the very top. Organizational strategy, corporate governance has to do with board's resolution, outputs for internal input. So they look at the objectives and the strategy to achieve the goals and objectives, which they will communicate at each level or layer of the organizational structure, up, down, up, down. And of course, performance must be measured to demonstrate compliance to the strategy. So alignments are done horizontally and vertically so that it will spread across. Let's look at the enablers and inhibitors of strategic alignments. What makes it successful and what makes it fail? So the enablers are that, one, senior executives must support IT investments. There must be a sponsor at that level, executive level of IT, who will be presenting the cases as aligned with value expectation on business cases. Another enabler is that IT must be involved in strategy development so as to give room for their input and contribute meaningfully on the way IT will support the strategy of the business. And IT must understand very well the business of the organization so as to present a platform to enable the business thrive and also for competitive advantage. IT and business must partner. They must partner. And IT projects must also be well prioritized in terms of value and costs. IT must demonstrate leadership in the implementation and must take responsibility in the implementation and the use of IT in achieving the general organizational goal. What are the inhibitors? The inhibitors are IT and business, once they lack close relationships, that project, the realization of the organizational objectives will suffer. If IT does not prioritize well in terms of implementation, it will be inhibited. Others include IT fails to meet commitments. They give commitment to stakeholders and they're not able to meet it. It will create distrust, disconnect, and it will make for conflict, disagreement, and create loss of confidence. When IT does not understand the business, he will not be able to profess solution that will aid the achievement of the business goals. Another inhibitor is when senior executives do not support IT. Because at the level of the executive management, there must be someone to sponsor, to speak on behalf of IT, to present the case and the value that will be derived from IT in supporting a business case or business objective. And another inhibitor is IT management when they lack leadership. Of course, if there's no leadership, there's no direction. When there's no direction, there's no movement. And movement is about growth. Movement is about solution. So when any of this happens, then there will be a kind of disconnect. IT strategy drives IT process. Very correct. You have your strategy with which you want to achieve. Then you set up the processes. Different strategy, different important processes. For example, in the mining versus in banking. Now, let's look at the perspectives. Financial perspective, partner perspective, internal process perspective, learning and growth perspective. At the financial perspective, you're looking at the value of IT. And at the At that level, we are looking about managing expenditure in IT that will bring about maximum business, maximum value for business units by adding value. You manage the expenditure properly by maximizing fund performance, keeping to the budgets. At the end of the day, it should be able to add value to business units. Talking about increased funding for the organization, for the agencies, for the IT units. And it should be able to create value to the business operations. Let's look at the partner perspective, outsourcing. That's partner perspective. Outsourcing. Say, for example, internet provisioning. They must keep the system running. That means they have a level of competence, like some of the ISP providers. They say 99.9% availability. You ensure that there is measurement, performance measurements, and an SLA to protect the investments, the finances that have been given out for the outsourcing. So they should be able to demonstrate a competitive price in terms of pricing. You check out every places that provides similar service. You match it with price and quality, testimony from others, other clients, reference clients. You talk about how credible are they to deliver what they say they want to deliver and to deliver it on time. How reliable are they? And what is their contribution to the business in terms of innovation and giving us an edge over our competitors? And what after sales service value are they adding? So, on the internal process perspective, you look at the operational excellence. Wow, everything is moving smoothly. The solutions from IT integrate properly. The architecture, the performance, and the processes are moving as expected. Reliable and functional systems. You sit down, you want to get job done, job that should be done in 2 minutes shouldn't take for 30, 40 minutes. You want to send a mail, you are using maybe the whole day to send just a single mail. That will affect operation. And how can you achieve this? Proper integration of solutions, proper IT architecture, proper platform, and proper processes. Then there should be also be good relationship between the business units and the operational units in terms of IT. IT should be able to deliver according to plans, world-class customer service, And for the business units, there should be proposed business cases for all IT solutions in order to monitor performance and alignment of expectation to deliverables. In such a situation, the business units must also understand the strategy of the organization. What does the company wants to achieve? Where are they going? What's the vision? What's the direction? Of course, they should also have a unit that does research. What's the trend and what is the company going to do in the next 2, 3 years, and begin to put in place the strategy to moving the company to attain to the level their future expectations. Then solution leadership. You have anticipate application of technology in the financial service industry. So you have different processes on different organizations in terms of internal processes. So moving away from there, you talk about learning and growth perspective. For learning and growth perspective, you must retain your good hands. You must employ the good hands. Training is very, very important. And also experience to enable continuity and also continued value delivery. The environment must encourage contributions of staff. And finally, there must be communication at all levels. So let's look at value of IT at different level of organization. Look at business delivered, sample measures, and performance measure. At the business unit, what is expected as value delivered are revenue growth, income, return on assets, then revenue per employee. At the level of the business unit operation, talk about time to bring a new product to market, business development, sales from new products, product or service quality. These are the values that are expected from business unit operational. Let's go to business unit IT applications. How long does it take them to implement new application and at what cost? Time, cost. And when we talk about time and cost, talk about the number of staff that have been drafted. Then at the very bottom there, firm-wide infrastructure. What are the value that is expected or are expected of them? Is this infrastructure available? The servers, are they available? The network, is it available? Is the router working properly? Is the security box properly configured and is delivering as expected? What are the costs per transaction on the infrastructure? What are the costs per workstation on each of the desks of the staff? In general, looking at the performance, time for business impact, time to deliver value is key. Then you look about cost management is very, very important for IT. IT has to work within budget and save costs for the organization while delivering value. Then in general, from firm-wide IT infrastructure to business unit financial, performances have been measured to ensure that expected values are derived. While we talk about value, we also talk about risk management, acceptable levels of risks. Like the assets, you have customer database and documentation. They have a lot of vulnerabilities, threats. Then when it crystallizes, what is the outcome? What is the value of the impact on the organization? And what's the likelihood that it will happen? And what are the expected controls that should be put in place? And what is the current risk control? What are the inherent risks? What is the control objective? What are you realizing from putting the control? Would there be need for additional control, maybe physical or whatever? And what's the action plan? And you look through down all your assets and ensure that the vulnerabilities, the threats are properly handled to prevent the occurrence. However, they occurred, there is a mitigation already in place. Now, performance measurement. These are examples, matrices that you can use to measure performance at the corporate level, customer level, operational level, and future. Looking at objectives for business through IT alignment, you talk about operational budget approval. Was it approved? Value delivery, cost management, risk management, intercompany synergy. So you have examples of how you can measure them. Then you go to customer. So this is an example of performance measurements. Looking about the future, human resource management. What's the level of staff turnover? People are resigning every now and then. Then that means you have to look into the costs. Do you need to change the head HR? So these are the things that gives reports for decision. Employee satisfaction. How do you get employee satisfaction? Satisfaction survey scores. Though sometimes the people are afraid to give their correct mind when it comes to survey, but then it will, to some extent, show the light of happenings in the organization. The knowledge management. implementation of learned lessons. So this is an example of performance measurement. So how do we uncover IT issues? How often do IT projects fail to deliver what they promised? So that means if it is high, there's an issue. If the incident occurs regularly, there's an issue. Another way to also discover IT issue is end user satisfaction. There's a survey you can carry out to find out, and what's the quality of IT service? Are sufficient IT resources, infrastructure, and competence available to meet strategic objectives? Do they have enough infrastructure? Do they have enough staff to man the key processes points? Has IT been overrunning operational budgets? How often and how much do IT projects go overrun? How much of the IT effort goes to firefighting rather than enabling business improvements? Firefighting, talking about incident management. What is the cost? So when all these things are happening, you'll be able to uncover that there are issues in your IT, and appropriate measure and decision should be taken. So at the end of the day, the report that comes from there is given to management to address it. So again, you look at it, how well, especially for auditors. If you're an auditor, this is your area. Issues have been discovered. Now, an auditor should be able to find out how well did the company, enterprise, align with IT objectives. Is IT value as delivered being measured? What strategy initiatives does executive management take to manage IT criticality relative to maintenance and growth of the enterprise? Is there an up-to-date inventory of IT risks that are relevant to the business? So, if there are, what has been done to address these risks? So, IT auditors, this is your area so that you can better advise for assurance. IT governance has a structural mechanism so as to be able to have a comprehensive end-to-end coverage over all the organization. So the mechanism has to are IT organization structure, including placement in the overall organizational structure, role and responsibilities of the IT staff, then setting up of IT strategic committee who will be responsible for aligning the, the company strategy with IT strategy. You should also have IT steering committee. Majorly, IT steering committee is an advisory body to the board. However, they oversee infrastructure implementation, the problems of the ICT addressed at the steering committee level. They should also have a CIO on the board that will speak for the board, that will speak for IT at the board level. You can also have project steering committee, which is different from IT steering committee. You have special advisory board, that is for the board level. Then you have special task force to ensure that decisions are being carried out accordingly. What are IT governance processes? Formal budgeting process. You don't just spend anyhow. For the year, you know what you want to buy. You know the resources you want to deploy vis-a-vis the goal of the organization, the strategy as in place that you are going to align with. Then you have evaluation methods. How do you evaluate performance? What balance scorecard, IT scorecard have you put in place? KPIs. You should also have strategic information system planning. You use frameworks like KUBIT and ITIL. KUBIT majorly for governance, ITIL for service delivery. You should have service level agreements for all partners. You must prioritize the use of frameworks, and information must be economical. Then you do strategic alignment model. Ensure that you also do a mapping of business stroke IT alignment for value delivery, value to the business unit accordingly. Then you look at the maturity as you progress based on implementation, results, and performance. So these processes must be in place to guarantee a good IT governance documents. Now, for the success of the entire work, for the expected results, as it were values for investment, you must ensure that there is participation of the principal stakeholders. There must be proper communication and handshaking, synergy. Their input is very important. And you could consider incentive for those that are participating, reward for partnering in it. Business stroke IT collocations, collocates. That's why you have some companies, some organization. You will see that IT and operational units, they share the same office. Probably the last place that I worked, We have IT and operation on the same floor. As a matter of fact, we have IT operation group head and the ED that oversee IT and operation is called ED operations. So they must co-locate so that they will be able to share the issues, the needs, and provide solution accordingly for value realization. Business understanding must be shared, and if there be any conflict, there must be resolution. We must not avoid conflicts. Conflict must be resolved. Avoidance is dangerous as there may not be proper synergy in the running of the organization. IT and business can have cross-functional training. IT want to understand what business functions are to be able to provide solutions that will present an excellent platform for business operations. Also might want to rotate business functional tasks and IT jobs so, so that they can understand each other and be able to work in synergy and collaborate accordingly. So in all of these things, communication and good relationship management in an organization is a key. Everyone should be aware of how everyone contributes to achieving the general business goal and that everyone is an integral part of the whole. No one operates in isolation. It must be a kind of a teamwork. And how can you achieve this? Good communication and good relationship. Once this mechanism is being put in place, ensuring that this happens, then the expected value for investment will be realized. Thank you. We come to the end of this part. Please watch out for the part 5 of this presentation. As before, I want to request that if you have not subscribed to my channel, I beg you to please do so, as that is a way of you encouraging me to continue to deliver. Thank you and God bless.